Tribal combat is heating up. And Paul Heyman makes a sorry mistake in Columbus, Ohio. Let's get into it. We start the show with Paul Heyman in the ring promoting the Brock Lesnar over Femi match, which leads into a promo segment with Brock himself in a video, VT, whatever. And he makes some strong points. It seems a little bit, how do I explain it? It's very corrective of a mistake that was made. Obviously, the mistake being the fact that he walked away and retired at the time he walked away. So he gives us a story that he got his ass kicked so bad that he decided he was done, but that didn't sit well with him and he decided to come back and give it the old college try. The problem with that is we already know the contractual situation and we're hearing reports that he is going to have to face Gunther at SummerSlam. We'll see what happens with that. Don't quite know. That would suggest, though, that Oba would win. However, let's get on with the show. Paul Heyman would make, as I said in the intro, a sorry mistake. I keep telling you, he's like Beetlejuice. Stop saying his name. You wouldn't say Beetlejuice, would you? You say his name that many times, Paul Heyman, he is going to come out and suddenly he's just marching towards the ring. You know how it go. Yep. You said over too many times and here he comes. Look at the size of his hands. This led us to our segment with Rey Mysterio. Much congratulations, Rey. Rey is, of course, the new general manager of Triple R. Still wrestling, though. Still wrestling. Impressive. That led us to a build match from last week. No, it isn't another open challenge. I am getting sick of these open challenges. We got Penta versus Je'Von Evans. Knew this was going to be a great match. We have gone past WrestleMania. So Je'Von's going to be handed a few losses here and there. Now is his building throughout. We got the hype of him coming onto the roster. From now on, he is literally going to have to earn our respect, as much I believe he has, but he's going to have to show us within storytelling at this point. Kudos to the boy. He can cut a promo and he can tell stories. So let's hope he is more than just a hype machine for the WWE, but I knew he was going to lose. There's no way he's going to win. It's too early to turn him into a heel. I see there's a lot of reports talking about Je'Von possibly becoming a heel, but in actuality, he's never been a heel. I've never seen him as a heel because he's never needed to be a heel. So that is great for Je'Von. Love to see what he does next. The boy is bouncy and very, very athletic, put together well as far as all around being a wrestler. We all think he needs to put on a few more pounds, but he's young yet and he's got a long way to go. And in spite of not having a lot of weight on him, he is very tall and he moves exceptionally well in the ring. He makes up for it in so many different ways. So love to see where he goes next with this, but it was always going to be a lose against Penta. Leads us to a segment with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry, yes, again singing about Logan Paul being fired. I mean, you altered the song a little bit, but it's a tad bit insensitive at this point. I mean, there were people, ex-WWE professionals that spoke about on their public platform that after these WWE releases and cut, it might not be a good idea for Joe Hendry to be singing about fire Logan Paul. I mean, I thought that was a little bit too sensitive, but now I think it's a little insensitive at the fact that he is injured. He hurt himself. He's off the roster. He will be off the roster for a while. If I'm not mistaken, it's a torn bicep or something like that. So that's a significant injury. That's a significant injury. And it's going to keep him out for a while. So because of that, I think maybe pivot from the Logan Paul stuff. I guess it was a good angle, but how is the babyface the one singing about a competitor being injured and the heel is the one sticking up for the, that is a little bit crazy to me, but it gave us something good in that moment, which I will come back to because I did think it was absolutely fantastic. That brought us to the Judgment Day, which was obviously Roxanne and Big Mammy Cool Raquel Rodriguez Gonzalez. Which one it is now? Raquel Rodriguez / Gonzalez. I thought that was so offensive when they did that. They just took any generic Latino name and just... But anyway, Lyra and Bayley versus Lyra and Bayley. You know me, I love me some Lyra and I love me some Bayley. I'm glad they picked up the win. Always put on a really good match. I would say at this point it's being highlighted. She puts on fantastic matches. But Lyra, I would say just breathe and calm down a little bit. And the worst part was these mistakes weren't being made when she was on NXT. I don't remember these mistakes being made on NXT. But she has a botch here and there. But when we say a botch, we're not talking about Tiffany Stratton level of botches. We're talking about a tiny little slip. We're talking about she hit the move, but there may have been some miscommunication. We're not talking about you have no business executing that move because you can't do it. There's a difference, and I have to mention that because I do love Lyra in virtually every respect except for the bird. Yeah, everybody mocks the bird. I also mock the bird. Commentator called it a pigeon. I hate the bird. I hate the bird so much. I like the lore and the idea of it, and I think she should bring it out at fan events. But I'm so glad she doesn't come to the ring with the wings and stuff anymore. Maybe print it on her ring gear, great. But I'm so glad she doesn't do the wings all that much anymore. Other than that, I think she's absolutely fantastic in every regards. Similarly, I think Tiffany has one of the strongest work ethics I have seen in the WWE for a long time. Tiffany Stratton, that is. Yes, Tiffany Stratton, the one who botches moves every single week, has no business doing the move because you can't do the move. It doesn't mean she doesn't work extremely hard. She may just not be a natural at this thing, and it will take some more time. But I will say this match between the Judgment Day, Lyra and Bayley, was always going to be a great match because they're all great performers, and they have a relationship with each other at this point. I would suspect. I know Lyra and Roxanne would. That's obvious. Bayley and Lyra have some kind of relationship, and I would think, considering the length of time that Bayley and Raquel Rodriguez has been, regardless whichever, has been with the company, that they have formed some kind of relationship between each other. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the strut cam. Strut cam. I haven't made my mind up about this one yet. It's corny as hell. But it also gives you a measure of how over Femi is. I think we need to note that. That takes us on to LA Knight, which for me, it's a mashup because I thought he did some really, really, really good work with LA Knight. I thought it was the best promo of the night, and I did think that. But I think it has to be a shared award. So I give LA Knight the best promo of the night. Congratulations, sir. However, it is a shared award. I thought he said some very poignant things, and once again, it's very important to the storyline being told currently by the WWE. So I thought it was great. Him and Jimmy Uso in the ring, I thought it was a great, great, great promo. Both did exceptionally well. LA Knight is truly starting to stand out as something a little bit more interesting. For the longest time, I just felt like he was a rehashed Caucasian version of The Rock. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful frame to the Caucasian. I mean it as he didn't have his own character. Because in a lot of ways, I think CM Punk is a rehashed version of The Rock. Just he breaks the fourth wall a little bit more. So it's weird to me when I hear CM Punk talk mess about The Rock, when it's just like, you didn't do anything too dissimilar from The Rock's formula. There are great wrestlers in every age who have generally their own formula to a certain extent. The Rock and Hulk Hogan were very close, but they weren't the same thing. CM Punk and LA Knight have taken the exact formula of The Rock, including, does it feel great to be alive in a city like? That's exactly the same as The Rock coming out and saying, finally, The Rock has come back to insert city here. So, and I think LA Knight with the whole, and the third person is not too dissimilar from The Rock again. Some may make closer connections to the Randy Man. Macho Man Randy Savage. Can't believe I just did that. Cannot believe I just did that. Some may make comparisons to those two, but I would say that The Rock is a closer comparison. For me, it was the best promo of the night, but it was only half, because this is where I think storytelling got really good for the WWE, especially in this episode of Raw. The matches weren't the greatest matches, because I will say usually I have a best match of the night and I don't have best match of the night. It could have gone to several different performers. However, I do believe that the promo segments and the storytelling were exceptional in this episode of Raw, which then brought me to another promo segment, which was out of the ring, which was Ethan Page, Rusev, Nick Aldis, and that was such a great, great, great promo. It was hilarious once again. Ethan Page, he is my honorable mention as far as MVP goes, because that was great again, and his interference when he stepped into the match was also great. Loved it. So it was Rey Mysterio. Now, as to the match between Seth Rollins and Montez Ford, I have been looking forward to this match for longer than you would realize. No, this match in my head hasn't been coming about since the feud. This match has been coming out of my mind for years and years. The idea of seeing Seth Rollins and Montez Ford, seeing Montez Ford as a singles competitor, wow, just wow. And I'll be honest, I watched the Motor City Machine Guns when they were in TNA, and throughout the amount of time that they were a tag team, injuries allowed each one of those guys to become individual stars. Now, I'm not wishing any injuries on any member of the Street Profits. What I am hoping is that the WWE can find out a way to keep them as a tag team, yet still make a single star. You managed to do it with Jey Uso, you can figure something out with the Street Profits. The issue here is, I think both members of the Street Profits are stars. A lot of you who watched Raw heard Michael Cole say the words that he felt that Dawkins is probably one of the most underrated wrestlers on the rosters, and I agree. I agree. We all know what Tez can do. Tag team or no tag team, we all know what Tez can do. If we took the reins off of Tez. Now, Dawkins, similarly, I think people don't realize what he can do. And he can do every bit. He's just so phenomenal wrestler. And I can't wait for the day that the Street Profits break out in singles, yet keep that air of tag team about them. Now, this brings us on to Theory for the second time in the night, running wild. I will say this is the first time I've ever seen Austin Theory look interesting. I will say it is the first time I've ever seen Austin Theory look dangerous. Give it up, give it up. I mean, for me, he is my MVP of the night. Yes, he was. With the chair, attacking people for their perceived attitudes and behavior towards Logan Paul, obviously. It seemed kind of hammy when Paul Heyman suggested it, but what Theory seemed to do with it in the night made him stand out for me. The attack at the top of the Titantron, the top of the ramp, I thought he could have gone to the ring with that chair, and it would have given stock to Austin Theory, more stock, if Austin Theory had gone down to the ring and wiped out 3 people. Be it at the end of the match, be it with a chair, it doesn't really matter. The effect that gives off would have raised his stock even more. I thought that would have been perfect. But the 2 attacks he did throughout the night for me made him the MVP. He really stood out for the first time in his career. He really stood out as an interesting character for me. And it's unfortunate that it took Logan Paul being injured for that to happen, but so it is. That led us to the match between Rusev and Rey Mysterio. That was obviously set up by Ethan Page's skullduggery earlier on in the night. Ethan Page would find himself on commentary, and he was absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So funny. The man can do it all. The man can do it all. And so he did. He was absolutely hilarious in the match. At the end of the match, he did well enough to sell Rey Mysterio also. So that was fantastic. I really enjoyed what he did, which is why I say he is an honorable mention for MVP of the night. He really is. I cannot give him that award. But I can give him an honorable mention. And now this took us to the very end of the show, which was the contract signing between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. Now, it's been done very well. It's been built very well. This is my second half of the best promo for the night. And the reason I say that is because it goes hand in hand with the story that LA Knight was telling. It was the outward effect. You are kind of seeing parts or elements there of exactly what LA Knight was talking about when he stood in front of Jimmy and he said, look, I have a problem with you guys and this problem seems to be escalating. I'm forewarning you. I'm not going to play nice in it. Like, whatever that was, it plays hand in hand to the ending promo of the night, which all I could say at that time was they're telling a hell of a story. They're telling a hell of a story. It's being crafted well, and all members of not just the family, but involved or adjacent to this storyline are playing their roles so well that it gives gravitas to this story. I have long since said this, that I think one of the things a lot of wrestling companies are missing are there is a basic structure to how to tell a story. And every story in the world, every book, every movie, every tale comes from a block of 7 stories. Now you can mix and integrate those stories. Sometimes that story, it's a love story. It might be a revenge story. It might be an adventure story, overcoming all odds. And what happens is, in a modern generation, we integrate, say, 3 of those and make a story. The adventure story that has a love interest, those are 3 different stories woven into. You understand? I felt like the WWE and most of the wrestling companies could do a lot better with their storytelling if they simply just use these structures, formatted it quite literally like writing a script to a daytime soap opera, because that's essentially what wrestling is. It's an ongoing story. It's a soap opera. So therefore, if they kind of held this structure, a lot of the companies who struggled with storytelling would do a lot better. I think this storyline proves that to a certain extent, because this is the family storyline. This is very much a family storyline. There are many of those. And weirdly enough, the first thing that comes to mind that could give you exactly what I'm telling on many different layers, unfortunately, it's a foreign language film. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you may not have seen it. And I believe the film is called The Curse of the Golden Flower. And within this family, there are multiple members of the family. And everyone in the family seems to have a bloody army. and the army is loyal to that single person in the family. It's a family at war, but every member of the family has their own separate army. It gets incredibly messy. Because of that, that is the example I get in my mind of how this kind of Unwai family feud, if you take something like that as a structure and a framework, you get what we're looking at. And that, for me, is this feud. Now, it wins best promo for me, as I said, because it interlinks with exactly what LA Knight was saying. It actually bagged for me. Actually bagged. Absolutely. Yes. Second half best promo of the night. Now, if you like the content, please hit like, subscribe, hit the notification button, let you know when I'm uploading next. And until then, I've been the Triple Crown Champ.